Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into a story laced with the soft rustle of paper and the subtle perfume of forgotten rituals. Imagine yourself opening a centuries-old silk pouch tucked inside a lacquered box. Inside, a folded square of aged, washy paper, still clinging to the faint scent of sandalwood and plum blossom. Not quite what you expected in a battlefield relic, right? But this isn't your average war tale. This is about the samurai and their curiously fragrant relationship with perfumed paper. Honestly, if you were a warrior sprinting toward armed, men in heavy armor, with arrows raining down and death one wrong move away, would your biggest concern really be smelling like jasmine? The answer for some samurai was a gentle, fragrant yes. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening from somewhere odd or somewhere cozy, let me know your local time and where you are in the comments. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You rest your hand on the mat, still sensing that faint trace of perfume clinging to your fingertips. It's not just a lingering scent, it's a path. And as you follow it, the past unfurls like a scroll, layer by layer. You step into the 12th century Kamakura era, the early days of the samurai class rising to prominence. But this isn't the cinematic sword-slinging samurai era just yet. Things are rougher, cruder, the swords are shorter, the armor heavier and squeakier. Honestly, it sounds like someone fighting inside a wooden cabinet. You hear the soft clop of hooves on damp gravel. Mounted warriors move through pine forests, gripping reins tightly, murmuring not strategy but poetry. Short tanka verses whispered before sunrise. And the strange part? They wrote them on scented paper. Now here's a historical moment you might recognize: the Genpei War between the Taira and Minamoto clans. A civil war with enough drama to fuel a decade of prestige TV. But what you probably didn't know is that in the chaos of battle, poetry and perfume were still very much alive. Some Minamoto warriors are recorded carrying perfumed paper, used not only for letters, but for farewell notes to their souls should they fall. Historians still debate whether these notes were actually sent or simply meant as offerings to the gods. But one thing's clear: they believed that scented writing had a better chance of catching the kami's attention. Imagine that. A soldier crouched in a straw shelter, scribbling a few final lines onto a folded page, then slowly burning it by oil lamp. The smoke curling up, laced with hints of dried mandarin peel and sandalwood. Not a message for the living, but for the mountain spirits, the forest guardians, the invisible world. And don't think this was purely spiritual. Records suggest that warlords of the time judged not only swordsmanship, but fragrance choice. A bodyguard whose paper reeked of overpowering cinnamon might be seen as lacking refinement. But someone who balanced cedar and plum blossom? Oh, you'd definitely be invited to dinner. One family record from the Wasugi clan describes a recruitment ceremony where candidates had to demonstrate both combat skills and their choice of paper scent. The winner? A young warrior who chose snow pine with dried orange peel. Strong but humble, the judges noted. Honestly, if you were a samurai back then, you'd need a fragrance coach just to make it to the battlefield. Picture walking into a castle courtyard at dawn. The first thing you notice isn't the shouting or clanging of swords. It's the shifting bouquet in the air, each warrior carrying their own scent, like a mobile boutique. But don't worry, no one's walking around smelling like vanilla. Cupcakes, at least not that we know of. And remember when you laughed at those modern candles labeled old books or grandfather's sweater? Yeah. Kamakura Samurai might have totally gone for my friend's final poem if it had been available. There's another detail most people miss. Sometimes these fragrant papers were folded into special shapes. Origami cranes, plum blossoms, little fans. And when opened, inside were not just poems but farewell messages for the living. One poignant example comes from a warrior named Yukimasa, who folded his paper into a bird and wrote, "If I fly, burn these wings with my prayer." The scent? Sweetgrass and barley. Historians still argue whether these folds were coded signals or just deeply personal flair. But you can tell. It was about holding on to identity in a world where you could vanish without a trace. You return to that faded piece of paper in front of you. The scent has softened but hasn't vanished. Like a dream whispering from the edge of sleep, it tugs gently at your chest. And then, just like that, another memory rises. You see yourself before a massive paper wall, lined with folded, fragrant notes. A shrine made not of words but of smells, people praying not just with voices but with perfume. Scent becomes language. And you, the quiet traveler drifting through this story, are about to descend deeper into that hidden ritual. You adjust your robe and the fabric rustles like dry leaves. The scent of sandalwood and paper clings to you, but now something new seeps into the air. Ink. Not fresh ink, but that dry, powdery kind used in calligraphy blocks. You know the smell like ash and tea leaves had a thoughtful conversation. You're now seated in a dim, lacquered room, a low writing table before you, brushes arranged like surgical tools, and across from you, a court noble from the Heian period, long before. The samurai became top dogs. He's not in armor. He's in 12 layers of silk, probably regretting all of them. His fingers are ink-stained, yet his nails are perfect. Priorities. This nobleman, let's call him Fujiwara, knows something, doesn't see perfume as luxury. He sees it as necessity. He prepares his letter to a lady he'll never quite admit he loves, but instead of a name, he opens with a scent. First, he burns a bit of clove incense near the paper. Then, a dash of crushed iris root is rubbed along the edge. It's subtle, like the whisper of a secret you were never meant to hear. You blink, and time folds again. Now you're in a Kyoto shop from the 1300s, one of the oldest surviving apothecaries. Their shelves are stacked with little paper packets, each with hand-mixed perfumes. Some blends are so ancient, their recipes are protected like royal bloodlines. You see a label that reads, "For strength in battle." Another says, "To be remembered after rain." Honestly, one sounds like a cologne ad, the other like a breakup playlist. But here's the odd twist. Samurai didn't always make these themselves. Nope. They commissioned poets, priests, and perfumers. There's even a record of one warrior who insisted his personal monk handle his battlefield scenting. "He knows my soul," the man allegedly said. I mean, sure, but did his soul really need to smell like cherry bark and moss? One battle manual from the Muromachi period, yes, those existed, includes a footnote about paper care. It warns not to overscent your paper before a fight. Why? Because it might attract insects. Or worse, the suspicion that you're trying too hard. Apparently, even then, doing the most had its consequences. And still, despite these warnings, many samurai chose to scent their death poems, those final short verses composed when defeat was inevitable. Sometimes the poem was left folded inside a helmet, other times tucked into the armor near the heart. Can you imagine? A warrior knowing this may be his last breath, yet pausing to choose a fragrance like someone prepping for a very specific Tinder date with fate. A lesser-known truth. The scented paper was also a form of identification. Helmets. Hand armor could be stripped from the dead, names forgotten, but that lingering scent, that custom blend might be enough for a friend to know, yes, that was him. You see? In a world of noise and steel and chaos, smell became memory. Gentle, persistent, personal, like the one thing you couldn't take from a man, even if you took everything else. There's even a case, half-legend, of a samurai whose body was never found, but whose scent lingered in the reeds near a river. His lover followed the trail, not of footprints but of perfume, and found his final note tied to a branch. The writing had faded, but the paper still smelled like camphor and rice blossom. You'd cry, but let's be real, it's late and you're too cozy for that level of emotional investment right now. The thing is, historians still can't decide whether all these scented papers were mainstream practice or just high drama. You know, like that one friend who writes love letters in calligraphy even when texting would do. Some scholars argue the practice was only common among elite circles. Others think it was a quiet trend that never got its due in samurai epics. But the truth probably lies somewhere in between. Like most things involving scent, poetry, and pride, you lean back and something in the room shifts. Not physically, just the atmosphere. The smell of old ink fades. Instead, a crisp, almost medicinal sharpness enters. It smells strategic, like preparation, as though somewhere warriors are lining up scrolls like maps. And sure enough, that's where we're going next. Because if scented paper once whispered love and sorrow, soon it will shout loyalty and war. The air shifts again as you find yourself amid the clamor of a samurai camp on the eve of battle. Around you, the dull clinking of armor mingles with the occasional murmur of strategy, quiet voices planning movements under the muted glow of lantern light. Somewhere nearby a kettle hums softly, the steam carrying the faint aroma of green tea and, surprisingly, perfumed paper. You watch as a samurai, his face calm but focused, carefully unfolds a sheet of paper imbued with a delicate fragrance. This isn't any ordinary letter. It's a coded message, scented in a way only trusted comrades could recognize. The scent acts like a secret handshake, a signature that ensures the message is genuine. Imagine trying to forge a note today and failing, because you couldn't replicate the exact smell of cherry blossom and sandalwood. Talk about a multi-factor authentication system before smartphones made it cool. The samurai hands the letter to a messenger who tucks it safely into his kimono, careful to avoid crushing the scented paper. You might think paper in a battlefield would be an impractical choice, but the samurai valued subtlety and the power of scent to communicate beyond words. And it wasn't just messages. Scented papers could mark territory, signal readiness, or even serve as a psychological tactic. Opponents catching a whiff of a known battle perfume might feel the sting of impending conflict, much like modern sports teams psyching each other out. But here's a curious detail. Some samurai scented their paper with calming fragrances like lavender or mint. It was believed that these scents could soothe nerves before the chaos of battle. Picture a warrior surrounded by steel and fury, pausing just long enough to inhale a bit of tranquility from his own letter. It's like packing your favorite playlist before a tough day at work, except the playlist smells like crushed jasmine petals. You notice a young warrior nearby, nervously fumbling with a letter wrapped in a faded camellia scent. It's his first battle, and his hands shake slightly as he holds onto that scented paper as if it were a talisman. The scent is a gift from his mother, a small reminder of home amid the uncertainty. You can almost hear her voice carried on, that fragrance, whispering courage and calm. The practice of using perfumed paper in battle wasn't just practical, it was deeply personal. It transformed cold communication into something intimate and human. This blend of formality and emotion carried through the centuries, reflecting the samurai's complex code of honor and artistry. After all, these were warriors who wielded poetry and perfume as deftly as their katanas. Yet some historians debate just how widespread this scented message tradition was. Was it an elite practice reserved for high-ranking samurai, or a common ritual among all warriors? Maybe it was a bit of both, a fragrant secret shared selectively in the misty folds of history. As the first light of dawn begins to seep into the camp, the scents mingle with the morning air, resolute, bittersweet, and full of stories yet to be told. You breathe in deeply, feeling the weight of these scented moments, the echoes of battles fought with more than just steel, and just as the camp stirs to life, you realize this fragrant journey is far from over. Ahead lies a tale of honor, artistry, and the surprising softness hidden within the samurai's fierce exterior. You follow the morning mist as it drifts through a quiet forest path, the sunlight gently filtering through the rustling leaves. Somewhere nearby, the faint scent of incense lingers, mingling with the earthy aroma of damp wood and moss. This subtle fragrance reminds you of those perfumed papers. Now imagine that same delicate scent on a battlefield, carried by the wind like a whispered message. The samurai's love for perfumed paper wasn't just about communication. It was also an art form, a ritual that reflected their deep appreciation for aesthetics and nature. You might picture a warrior taking a moment before battle, carefully choosing which scent to infuse into his letters or battle flags, like picking the perfect cologne for a first date, but with slightly higher stakes. Some of the most popular scents came from native plants like cherry blossoms, sandalwood, and camellia. These weren't just pleasant aromas, they carried symbolic meanings. cherry blossoms representing the fleeting nature of life, sandalwood offering calm and clarity. It's as if the samurai wrapped their emotions and philosophies into the very paper they used. Interestingly, perfumed paper wasn't exclusive to messages. The samurai also used scented papers in their poetry and calligraphy, blending art with everyday life. Imagine receiving a poem where every brushstroke is accompanied by a scent, like your favorite song playing softly in the background. Historians still debate how widespread this practice was. Was it common among all samurai, or a luxury reserved for the elite poets' warriors? You can almost hear the quiet rustle of the paper as a samurai pens a heartfelt haiku, the scent of plum blossoms filling the air. These delicate moments of beauty stand in gentle contrast to the harsh realities of their world, like soft jazz playing in the middle of a storm. Yet, despite the elegance, perfumed paper had practical uses too. It helped protect messages from tampering, as the unique scent would betray any attempt to alter or replace them. Think of it as an ancient version of a security watermark, only way more fragrant. There's a charming story about a samurai who once used perfumed paper to send a secret love note disguised as a battle order. His clever plan almost went unnoticed, except the opposing clan caught the sweet scent and realized the message was anything but military. It's moments like these that remind you the samurai world had its playful side too. As you breathe in the mingling sense of forest and memory, you feel a connection to a time when even the smallest details, like the smell of a letter, carried weight and meaning. It's a reminder that history isn't just dates and battles, but stories woven with scent, color, and heart. And as the sunlight warms your skin, you prepare to walk deeper into the story, where perfume meets power in unexpected ways. The soft crackle of a distant campfire draws your attention as you step closer to a gathering of samurai preparing for the day ahead. The air is thick with the mingling scents of burning wood, tea leaves, and, quite noticeably, delicate perfumes, wafting from carefully folded papers laid out like treasured artifacts. You can almost imagine yourself leaning in to catch the faint aroma of jasmine and cedar, a comforting contrast to the sharp clang of armor nearby. Perfumed paper, you see, was more than just a luxury. It was a symbol of status and refinement. High-ranking samurai took great care in selecting and scenting their correspondence, believing the fragrance spoke as eloquently as the written words. It's like today's personalized stationery, but with a subtle, natural cologne that says, "Yes, I'm important, but also very cultured." One of the more intriguing practices involved using perfumed paper during battle preparations. Warriors would scent their banners and flags, so when they waved them in the wind, the fragrance could signal different meanings to their allies. Imagine battlefield communication that's half Morse code, half aromatherapy session. The scent might boost morale or even confuse the enemy, because who expects a whiff of cherry blossom to accompany a charge? You overhear a conversation about how samurai also believed that the right scent could influence luck and fate. Lavender for calm, nerves camellia for strength, and a rare blend of spices to inspire courage. It's almost like carrying a scented good luck charm, except more elegant than your average rabbit's foot keychain. Yet historians still debate how deeply these fragrant practices were embedded in samurai culture. Was this widespread across all ranks or reserved for the elite? Did the scents actually sway the outcome of battles, or were they more a personal comfort amid chaos? It seems, like many traditions, the truth lies somewhere in between. Meanwhile, you notice a young samurai carefully folding a letter scented with sandalwood, the edges worn from frequent handling. The letter is addressed to his family, and the scent is meant to bring them peace, an olfactory hug across distance and danger. It's a touching reminder that behind every warrior was a human, holding on to small comforts in uncertain times. The camp stirs with a quiet energy, the mingling smells wrapping around you like a soft blanket. It's a moment where the fierce and the gentle coexist, where battle plans meet poetry, and where scent is a silent, powerful messenger. You take a deep breath, letting the fragrant air settle around you as the story continues to unfold, richer and more nuanced than you ever imagined. The subtle sound of footsteps on gravel leads you to a serene garden where a group of samurai gather beneath blooming plum trees. The petals scatter gently in the breeze, releasing their soft fragrance, reminding you of the delicate, perfumed papers once cherished in these very moments. You pause, sensing the quiet harmony between nature and warrior spirit. In this peaceful setting, the samurai would often compose poetry, blending the art of calligraphy with scented paper to create a multisensory experience. Imagine receiving a letter not just to read, but to inhale, a fragrant poem that unfolds with every breath. This practice wasn't merely decorative, it was a deeply personal expression, a bridge between hearts across distance and time. You recall how the perfumes used weren't random, but carefully chosen to match the mood or message. Plum blossom scent might convey hope or renewal, while pine could symbolize steadfastness and endurance. It's as if the samurai mastered not only swordplay, but also the delicate language of scent. A fascinating detail comes to light. Some samurai were rumored to carry small sachets of perfumed paper tucked inside their armor, offering moments of calm amid the chaos of battle. You can almost picture a warrior discreetly breathing in the soothing aroma, like a modern-day stress ball, only way more elegant and less squishy. Interestingly, historians still debate how common these fragrant rituals were among lower-ranked warriors compared to their aristocratic counterparts. Some argue it was a mark of privilege, while others suggest it was a shared cultural thread woven through all levels of samurai life. As you sit quietly, the scent of plum blossoms lingers on your skin, mingling with the earthy aroma of the garden soil and the faint rustle of kimono fabric. The contrast between the serene beauty here and the fierce battles elsewhere in Japan feels striking, almost like the samurai carried two worlds within them. With a soft smile, you think about how these fragrant traditions remind us that even those known for their discipline and strength valued moments of softness and sensory pleasure. It's a gentle reminder that history at its core is about people, complex, layered, and beautifully human. And so, the story carries on, inviting you to explore the delicate interplay between fragrance, culture, and the samurai soul. The quiet murmur of a nearby stream accompanies your steps as you wander toward a humble tea house nestled among bamboo groves. Here, the samurai's love for perfumed paper takes yet another form, intertwining with the art of tea ceremonies, moments designed to bring calm and clarity. You might not expect such delicate rituals from fierce warriors, but then again the samurai were full of surprises. During tea ceremonies, scrolls with calligraphy scented in subtle fragrances were displayed, enhancing the atmosphere. Imagine the soft waft of green tea mingling with hints of cherry blossom or sandalwood from the paper, a sensory layering that calms the mind before battle or contemplation. It's like a spa day for the senses, samurai style. One lesser known fact is that some perfumed papers were believed to purify the air, warding off bad spirits or negative energy. This ties into the broader Shinto and Buddhist beliefs that many samurai held dear. So carrying or displaying these papers wasn't just about aesthetics, but also spiritual protection. It's like having a fragrant little guardian by your side. You overhear a quiet debate among tea masters about whether the scent should be bold enough to notice or subtle enough to suggest. It turns out the ideal was a gentle hint, something that teased the senses without overwhelming them, much like the samurai themselves, who balanced power and restraint. As you breathe in the mingled aromas, the fresh bamboo, warm tea, and faintly scented paper, you realize that these rituals provided a rare space for samurai to pause, reflect, and connect with something beyond the battlefield. A reminder that even the fiercest warriors needed moments of peace. The tea house seems to hold a secret history of these fragrant customs, stories passed quietly from master to student. And while historians still discuss how widespread these practices were, the sense of tranquility they brought is undeniable. You take a slow sip of imagined tea, letting the warmth spread, feeling the story wrap around you like a soft kimono sleeve. The journey through samurai scents continues to reveal new layers, each more soothing and intricate than the last. The soft rustling of silk and the distant clink of armor guide you now to a lively marketplace in Edo, where the scents of perfumed paper mingle with the hum of everyday life. Here, samurai and townsfolk alike engaged with these fragrant creations, weaving them into daily routines beyond the battlefield and tea ceremonies. Perfumed paper was often used in letters exchanged between lovers or friends. Imagine receiving a note that not only carried heartfelt words, but also a scent that stirred memories or conveyed emotion. It's a bit like today's scented greeting cards, but with centuries of tradition behind each fold. Interestingly, certain scents were believed to influence mood or even health. For example, lavender-infused paper was thought to calm nerves or soothe headaches, a charming ancient remedy wrapped in elegance. You might chuckle picturing a samurai discreetly pulling out a fragrant note mid-battlefield to ease a pounding head, though historians debate just how practical that really was. You notice how these scented papers became a subtle form of communication, sending a message not just through words but through smell, a silent language that could express affection, respect, or even rivalry. A fragrant whisper in the midst of noisy streets and political intrigue. One vendor claims his papers are infused with rare herbs from distant provinces, making them prized possessions and popular gifts. This hints at an early form of luxury branding, centuries before perfumes and designer stationery hit the market. Imagine the samurai shopping here, picking out the perfect scent to impress a lord or loved one. As you blend into the crowd, the mingling aromas create a patchwork of history and humanity. The marketplace, alive with trade and tradition, shows that perfumed paper was more than a quirky luxury. It was woven into the fabric of social life, subtle but pervasive. You take a deep breath, savoring the scents and stories, feeling connected to a world where fragrance carried meaning beyond words, and the samurai's delicate touch extended far beyond the sword. You find yourself drifting toward a quiet temple garden, where the soft crunch of gravel underfoot blends with the gentle rustling of cherry blossoms. Here, samurai often retreated for meditation, and the use of perfumed paper took on a more spiritual dimension. These scented sheets were sometimes used as offerings or to inscribe prayers, their fragrance believed to carry intentions to the divine. One curious detail is that the paper's scent was thought to purify not only the body, but also the mind, creating a serene atmosphere conducive to reflection. Imagine how calming it must have been to unfold a fragrant prayer in such a peaceful setting, like a scented breath of fresh air for the soul. There's a quiet debate among scholars about how much these fragrant rituals influenced samurai philosophy, but it's clear that scent played a subtle role in their spiritual lives. Perfumed paper helped to create a sacred space, bridging the earthly and the ethereal in a way words alone could not. As you wander through the garden, you might catch the faint aroma of incense mixing with the paper's fragrance, layering scent upon scent like a gentle symphony. It's a sensory lullaby that invites your mind to slow, your thoughts to soften, much like this story itself. The samurai's appreciation for these delicate aromas reminds you that even those trained for war sought moments of peace and purity, soft spots in a life otherwise filled with discipline and duty. It's almost as if the paper's scent was a whispered promise of calm amid chaos. You pause by a stone lantern, feeling the cool air mingle with the subtle perfumes, and realize that these fragrant traditions were a quiet rebellion against the harshness of samurai life, a way to keep softness alive in the shadows of the sword. The sun dips lower as you step into a dimly lit room, where artisans craft the very perfumed papers that the samurai cherished. You watch their delicate hands fold and scent each sheet with care, blending natural oils and powders into fragrances that range from subtle pine to warm amber. This craft wasn't just about making pretty paper, it was a form of art, a sensory experience designed to soothe and delight. The artisan's techniques were passed down through generations, with some recipes kept as closely guarded secrets, like a samurai's family sword. One little-known fact is that certain scents were reserved only for the highest-ranking samurai, a fragrant status symbol as much as an olfactory pleasure. Wearing or carrying these exclusive perfumed papers was like sporting a luxury watch today, a quiet nod to one's rank and taste. You overhear a debate about whether the scent should linger long or fade gently, much like a whispered compliment versus a bold statement. It seems samurai preferred the subtle touch, an elegant reminder rather than an overwhelming presence. The process involves layering scents carefully, much like composing a poem or a calligraphy piece, each note balanced to create harmony. You can almost hear the artisans humming as they work, a soothing soundtrack to this ancient sensory craft. You pause to imagine a samurai receiving one of these handcrafted scented papers, like a little fragrant letter of comfort or honor. It's a reminder that beneath the armor and discipline was a deep appreciation for beauty and quiet moments. As the light fades, the scent of the artisan's work lingers softly, a final touch to this chapter in the fragrant journey. Night deepens and you find yourself beside a gentle stream where samurai often washed away the day's weariness. Here the story of perfumed paper takes an unexpected twist, used not just for communication or ceremony, but as a secret code. During covert missions, the subtle scent was a way to mark messages, invisible to enemies but clear to allies trained to recognize the fragrance. Imagine the tension of passing a scented note under the moonlight, the delicate aroma revealing a path or warning without a single word spoken. Historians still debate how widespread this practice was, but it adds a layer of intrigue to the samurai's use of perfumed paper, turning a simple sensory delight into a tool of espionage. You might picture a stealthy ninja relying on this scented code, a fragrant fingerprint on a cloak and dagger mission. The idea that scent could carry secrets makes you appreciate the samurai's cleverness, blending beauty and strategy in one elegant move. It's like using scented candles to signal your location, but centuries earlier and far more refined. As the water gently flows and the paper's scent drifts through the night air, you feel the quiet pulse of history beneath the calm surface, where perfumed paper was more than it seemed, a silent partner in shadowy schemes. You lean closer to the stream, the soft gurgle mixing with faint floral notes, a sensory lullaby inviting your mind to wander gently into the next tale. The morning light creeps through rice paper windows, and you settle into a quiet tea room where samurai once gathered to share stories and sip matcha. Here, perfumed paper played a surprisingly cozy role, not just in battle or ceremony, but in daily life, adding a gentle aroma to their surroundings. Imagine sitting with a cup of warm tea, the air tinged with soft scents of cherry blossom or sandalwood, thanks to sheets of perfumed paper tucked discreetly around the room. It created a peaceful atmosphere, much like a modern spa's calming playlist and scented candles, but centuries earlier, and with a samurai's understated elegance. One charming fact is that these papers were sometimes placed beneath pillows to help ease restless minds, a fragrant nudge toward sweet dreams. You might chuckle imagining a samurai, so serious and stoic, choosing their bedtime scent like you'd pick a favorite playlist for winding down. The role of scent in everyday samurai life hints at a softer side often overlooked, reminding us they weren't just warriors, but people who cherished comfort and calm in small, fragrant ways. Scholars still ponder how much these simple rituals shaped samurai well-being. As you breathe in the delicate aroma, it's easy to picture yourself there, feeling the quiet warmth of the tea room and the gentle promise of rest. A fragrant pause in the story, inviting you to relax deeper. As the afternoon light fades, you wander through a samurai's study, walls lined with scrolls and ink brushes. Here, perfumed paper held yet another purpose, a muse for poets and thinkers, inspiring verses scented with pine or plum blossoms. The boy, samurai trained in both sword and pen, often wrote poetry to capture fleeting moments of beauty or the bittersweet nature of life. The fragrant papers weren't just a backdrop, they were part of the creative process, their scents sparking memories and emotions that flowed into ink and verse. An unusual detail is that some samurai believed certain scents could awaken deeper insights, much like modern aromatherapy claims to boost creativity and focus. It's amusing to think that their study playlist was a whiff of jasmine or sandalwood rather than Spotify. Historians still discuss how influential these scented rituals were in shaping samurai art and philosophy. Was it just a pleasant tradition or a secret ingredient to their genius? You might imagine a samurai poet pausing, inhaling a soft fragrance before penning a haiku about fleeting cherry blossoms. As you lean back, the scent lingers like a whispered poem, gently coaxing your thoughts toward quiet reflection and calm. The day draws to a close as you walk slowly through a peaceful garden, where samurai once strolled beneath blooming trees, perfumed paper tucked into their robes like little fragrant talismans. This final touch wasn't just about scent, but a reminder of life's delicate beauty amid duty and discipline. The ritual of carrying perfumed paper became a calming practice, a small comfort amid the uncertainties of battle and politics. You can almost feel the soft rustle as the paper brushed against armor, releasing gentle aromas that grounded the warrior's mind. Interestingly, some samurai believed the scent could ward off bad luck or bring clarity, a fragrant kind of mindfulness, centuries before meditation apps. It's both poetic and practical, blending tradition with personal ritual. As night deepens, the story winds down with a gentle murmur of cicadas and the soft flutter of scented papers in the evening breeze. You feel a soothing calm settle over you, the layered scents fading slowly like a lullaby. Remember those perfumed papers tucked under pillows. They've guided you here, through the samurai's world, a sensory journey woven with quiet strength and gentle elegance. Now let your thoughts drift like falling cherry petals, soft and slow,